Om. Gayatri Mahamantra with your back straight, both hands upon your laps, contemplative mood. Om Bhuribhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. In our ongoing series of Gayatri Mahamantra, under the Saturday Sattva program, now we arrive at a point where there has to be a little understanding about how to handle a japa mala. Not for those who decide initially to proceed with Gayatri Mahamantra japa with a count on time, not for those. And it is not even necessary to start with the japa mala, with the rosary. But for those who intend to start their japa with jap mala, somehow they have a special interest to use the jap mala. For them, I should dedicate some time so that they can understand and conduct that well. Of course, some practice is certainly required even at their end, as it goes with any skill that we try to learn, whether at a physical end or at the mental skill. So, but it's not something which is very difficult. No, not at all. With a little practice, you shall be able to become an expert to handle a mala. Yes, I'm saying I'm saying a word expert thoughtfully. Now, how do we proceed with the jap mala? How do we count the mala? The jap mala has to be counted with the help of some other medium. For example, if you want to observe 11 mala as your japa, so how do you count those 11? The foremost is to remember how many mala you have performed. But initially, what happens? Your attention is absolutely fixed to ensure that the mantra chanted or mantra under incantation has undergone well without having any miss upon any pronunciation of a word. Your speed is slow, you're more cautious. So, in that state, of course, you may become forgetful, become oblivion to the count of the malas. For that matter, as I used to do it initially, decades ago, I used to deploy the help of these ordinary matchsticks. So they used to help me a lot. I used to use these matchsticks to count the number of the jap mala. One mala over, one stick from right side kept on the left side. For instance, if the sticks are on the right side or left side, probably it's better because your left hand would be free if the right is handling the jap mala. Pick one stick from one point and keep it on the other side. So what happens if in case you are going to observe 11 mala, so the moment you exhaust your sticks on left side, you realize that yes, the count of 11 jap mala is now over. So that's very simple to remember the count in the mala. But as the practice would go on, there shall be no need for you to keep a tab upon the number of mala because you yourself shall be able to remember them well. Now comes the point, how do we use the jap mala? Now, the jap mala which I am using is a Tulsi jap mala. This is a Tulsi jap mala I am using. The best way to use it in public, for example, if you have gone outside, I am saying public for the reason because there are going to be opportunities when you go outside. Maybe you're at the banks of the Ganges, maybe you're out in the temple, maybe you're traveling and you want to observe your practice of Gayatri, or someone else is there who is noticing you doing the japa. In that case, as it is prescribed by the learned ones, and I did not question that for the reason that if they have prescribed it, there must be some valid reason for that. And they have prescribed that you should cover it when you're performing a japa publicly. Now, covering it is take a piece of cloth. There are people who also use bag, a small bag which is made only for jap mala. Take a piece of cloth, simply cover your hand, and under that, your japa is going on. And you will be able to keep absolute count even on the moment when the one mala is over. Why so? Because the mountain, the mountain which has got special threads associated with that, Sumeru we call it. Sumeru is the name of the mountain, the highest peak, highest summit. So when that arrives, then of course you have to turn the mala backward. How that is done, I'll tell you. You may use a cloth as I am using when I go outside, when I have to really hide the mala from the other eyes, then I use this cloth. Or you may also purchase from the market the special bags which are made only for this purpose. That you must have observed, people carry certain bags upon their wrist. So they hold, the handle is on the wrist and their hand is in the bag. So they keep counting the japa right into that small bag. So it depends upon you, how do you want to proceed, with the bag or with a cloth. With me, the cloth shall suffice. Now comes the point, how do you use the mala when the japa is going on? The foremost caution you have to observe is you do not have to use this finger, the index finger, because it is considered that it has got a lot of fire, especially when you're into a religious practice. Therefore, it is advised that you don't use this particular finger to hold the mala. So, leave this particular finger aside and try to rest the mala upon these two, the middle finger and the ring finger. So, that almost keeps your three fingers free, the thumb, the index, and the little finger. They are free. So, you can just right from the Sumeru, the highest bead, just rest this mala upon your middle finger like this, and from here onward, you keep counting one after another. Keep it moving this way, downward, after each mantra that you incantate, or you may call it as chanting. So in japa, go on moving this rosary, this jap mala downward like this. It's moving now. It's moving with the chant of each mantra. It's moving downward. You can see this Sumeru traveling downwards, traveling downwards. Now the moment comes when your mala is now over. At times, what we also do is to keep a tab whether that Sumeru is coming up or not. So at times we slightly open our eyes just to notice if the Sumeru is on the other side. Is it nearing to culminate? Is the mala going to end now? And at times, even our fingers are also able to experience the last bead just a moment before it arrives, because this protruding threads, they come and they touch your thumb and you realize it. So it's all with the practice. There is no need for you as to ensure that whether the last bead is going to arrive or not. It only happens during those moments when you run out of patience and your mind is distracted and you want to ensure to yourself that one mala is going to now culminate. So now when the mala is about to culminate, when you're there on the last bead, as the prescription of the great master goes, you don't have to surpass this Sumeru, this mountain. You don't have to surpass this mountain. Instead of that, you simply have to reverse the mala like this. Now, what happens is it's on these fingers and you just turn it this way. Now, what happens? Something which was at the last now shall automatically, after turning it like this, after turning it like this, after turning it like this, shall become the first one. Do you see this? And again, you proceed on to the second mala. So, this turning of the mala ensures that you do not cross the mount and you start right from the last bead again as the first one. I probably think this is in order to make yourself more aware during those moments that you do not cross this mount. and you come back, you become more conscious. And it's all about gathering your consciousness, gathering your awareness during the moments of japa. The tendency of the mind is to wander and distract, and each and everything is brought as an input here in the form of a procedure or a prescription in order to ensure that you maintain your awareness and you do not undergo any distraction. Probably this is also one of the reasons, as I believe, because I don't have any other reason that could substantiate the cause for not surpassing the mount. Now comes the mala which you want to use. As the Sattvic japa goes for the Gayatri Mahamantra, you may use the Tulsi Mala. I have already made a mention of this in one of the earlier episodes. Or you may use the sandalwood, the beads of the sandalwood, the Chandan Mala. Whatever you may use, you can use either of them. These both are the best ones prescribed for Gayatri Mahamantra japa. And well, in any case, this you get Tulsi Mala of different size of beads, like the one which I'm using. These are smaller ones, and there are also mala available in the market with the bigger beads. This too is a Tulsi Mala, and this has bigger one, better rounded beads. And there is a third variety of Tulsi Mala that comes not with sandalwood. I have not observed a Tulsi, which are very rough. They are not rounded ones. So they are very rough as the goes that they gather a stick of Tulsi and they just cut it into pieces, make a hole inside to pass on the thread. That's it. So that rough mala I have practiced uh, thousands and thousands and thousands of mantras upon those rough mala as well. So I hold a good practice upon even having japa on a rough beads. But I would always suggest that it's better that you go with the rounded ones, so that initially you don't have to fight and contest between the movement of the beads, because at times when you don't hold that proficiency at initial stage, it becomes difficult for you to ensure that the bead has been able to easily pass upon your finger. And there are certain beads at times they are so protruding, their edges are so protruding that they stick upon your the bottom part of this lower part of your middle finger, and they don't arise. And when they don't rise, I mean they don't arise, so what happens? You have to struggle to bring them upward by using your other hand. So advisable is to take a tulsi mala, which is most rounded ones. As I am given to understand, there is not much of a fraud that is committed in the Tulsi Mala. I cannot say much about the sandalwood, but for Tulsi Mala, because it's mostly easily available in most of the cases and are not very high priced, so there should not be a reason that you do not get a Tulsi Mala from the market, especially when you visit some pilgrimage and you happen to come across some good shop, you can buy it from there itself. So this goes with the kind of mala that you're going to use. I've given you my own experience also. So three kinds of mala with small beads, the bigger one and the rough ones. So better to go with the rounded ones. That is all depend. That all is left on to you to determine whether a smaller bead will be good for you or a bigger one. That you can go on to the shop and find it for yourself, or you may order for two. If you're ordering it online, making an order online, then you may order for two, a small and the bigger one. One you can confine to your upasana sthali, another one you can retain in order to carry it along when you go outside, when you travel outside. So there can be two mala, they're not very expensive, you can easily afford them, you can hold them. So this is an aspect for that. Then there is another practice that goes, which is good one, which I have not read anywhere, but I have observed people, so I just follow, is as a convention, because there are certain things which are important and they move as a convention. And that is that the moment you're done with one mala, so what you do is you touch that summit on your eyes, on your forehead, you just touch it, and then you move on to the next mala. So it's like paying respect to one accomplishment or one mala. Now, what is the purpose of paying respect to the accomplishment? As I gather, again, it is one of the input in order to ensure a higher order of awareness within you, so that it makes you, although gradually what happens with the practice, what happens is that this becomes an automated act without much of realization that you are raising your levels of awareness to a higher order. You just go on doing it, it automatically happens, as if your subconscious mind has undergone a programming where on autopilot everything is happening the way it was determined. But initially when you do that, that instills into you the order towards the higher awareness. So that too helps one while performing the japa. Now, these are small things that have to be observed while doing your japa. I have mentioned about keeping a tab upon the number of the mala initially. I have also mentioned how do you cover the japa when you are performing your japa outside in open in front of other people. There is no need to cover it when you're doing it all alone in your upasana sthali at your home. There's no need for that. It's especially for the other people from whom you try to hide that. Now, whether someone is going to steal your energy or what, maybe I am not very sure about that since I do not hold any information about that. But some people do talk about that too, that it's covered for with a specific premise that the other person may not be able to steal your energy. How far that goes, I stand neutral upon that because I hold no authority to comment on that aspect. But anyway, we practice it that way without making much of questions. There are certain conventions to be followed in the spiritual realms for which we may not have the valid reason today. But if they have come with the convention and they do no harm, if something is doing any harm, there are all reasons for you to seek for a logic, and if it's not available, you may even shun it away. But if it is not doing any harm and it is raising the level of your awareness, we must accept our conventions, and the conventions are very important. You will be surprised to note that the Parliament of India is run upon conventions. It's not run upon any particular law as such. The procedures, especially the procedural parts are all conventions that probably have been codified in fact, but they're termed as conventions. So the conventions hold their own prominence, their significance, their importance. So let us give them a respect and regard and follow them. So this is how you keep a tab upon your japa mala and how you use your mala. You may have to watch this video, especially that part when I was turning the mala again after accomplishment of one mala, when I was turning it backward so as to start right from that particular bead where it ended. So that bead becomes the first one every time. So let me just reiterate once more. For example, if your one mala has culminated on this particular bead, right one short of this mount. Now this particular last bead has to now become the first for the second mala. So how would it become? When we just simply turn it, keep holding this, turn it, and now here it is. What happens? It has become the first one now. So that is all what you have to ensure, keeping into mind a respect towards conventions. I hope you would have started your practice of japa, maybe keeping some count within yourself or with jap mala. I am not aware of that. But if still you hold any questions in your mind, you should certainly seek a resolve from me by the email I keep mentioning in the description of this this video. Now, coming down to the aspect of what is next now. The next is the more important aspect of the philosophic aspect of it, how the great master, the exalted ones, have brought the science of Gayatri with what kind of an understanding, and what else is there which has been mentioned into scriptures of different kinds. That is going to be something very illuminating. It will be a very interesting part also, and the great learning involved in that. I took the practice part first just for the reason that I did not want those who become interested to delay their practice of Gayatri Mahamantra. Let the knowledge follow. Praxis must precede knowledge could follow, so that at least by the time you're gathering knowledge, your mind is also well prepared and charged with the vibration, the divine vibrations of Gayatri Mahamantra. I wish you all the good for your spiritual pursuit and hope to meet with the next in the next episode of this ongoing series under Saturday Sattva program. Till then, Om Hi Satya Hai, Om Hi Satya Hai, Om Hi Satya Hai.